Salve, and welcome to Parsing John. Today we're in verse 39 of chapter 1 of the Latin text. This is the rubric, everything that we're looking for as we go through this text. Let's go ahead and get started. Dicit eis venite et vedete, venerunt et viderunt, ubi maneret, et apud eam manserunt, die illo hora autem erat quasi decima. And now there should be a whole bunch of punctuation in there, especially when I read it. But I didn't. It takes too long to type it all in there. Okay, let's take a look at our text. We find here our very first word. Dicit is a verb. It here is a third person and singular ending. This comes from dico, dicere, so this is going to be the present tense, not the perfect. It's a third conjugation word. And then it is active and indicative. He says, eis comes from is, ea, id. This is going to be dative, plural, masculine, to them. Masculine because we know who the two or the multiple people are here from the previous verses. It's going to be its two disciples of John the Baptist. Got a direct quote starting here. Venite, got our te ending here, which in Latin is going to be an imperative ending. It is the second person plural. It is off of our present stem, and it is active. Imperative means come. Et is a conjunction, just meaning and. Videte, we've got another te here off of the present stem, so this is exact same form here as well. See. Put not question marks, exclamation marks after each of them to mark that. Venerunt tells us that we've got a new sentence starting. Erunt is our ending. This is a third person. It is plural. This looks like it could be off either the present stem or the perfect stem, because that's just the way this verb works. But our ending here is specifically and only a perfect tense ending. And it is, of course, active and indicative. They came, and viderunt, this is the same erunt, and this time it is off of the perfect stem because there's no e there, extra e from the present stem. Same exact form. I'm going to pull that over. They saw, ubi just means where. Maneret, here we've got interesting form. We've got the third person singular personal ending on there. And it is built off of our present infinitive, which then tells us that this is an imperfect subjunctive. And it is active, because the ending is active. The reason we have a subjunctive here is because we have entered indirect discourse. In this instance, specifically, this is an indirect question. And we have the imperfect tense here to tell us that this action is happening roughly contemporaneously with these. If we had the present or the future tense here, then we would expect to find a present tense verb in our subjunctive telling us that the actions are happening at the same time. There we go. Where he was staying. And of course, we translate this as an indicative in English because English doesn't have indirect discourse function quite the same way. We would translate it as a subjunctive in English if we knew that in reality this was not the case. Then we would say where he might be staying, but isn't actually would be implied. But this is indeed where Jesus was staying that they're talking about. So in English we talk about it as a real action rather than the way the Latin does as a hypothetical action. So we've got apud here, which is a preposition. It's going to take the accusative as its object, and this means at, near, among, by. Eum is its object. Manserunt can't be. This is the end of our prepositional phrase here. Him. This is another form of is, id, not hid. Manserunt, we've got the erunt ending, third person, plural, perfect, active, and indicative. They remained. And then die illo hora autem erat, blah, blah, blah. Runs long. So die here, since we've got e, that's going to be long. So this is ablative, singular, and masculine, because clearly we've got some sort of function of the ablative in there. And illo is also going to be masculine or neuter. It can't be modifying hora, because hora is feminine. So that's going to be the exact same thing. Arrows up to that. This means that, and that means day. Since we have an ablative, we have an either ablative of time when or ablative of time within which. Say that day. On that day. I'm going to go with ablative of time when. But as I said, it could be time within which. Hora is going to be a completely different thing. This is either nominative singular feminine or ablative singular feminine. As we take a look ahead, we've got erat, which is third person singular imperfect of sum, and indicative. Was quasi-decima. Hora is going to be nominative as our subject here. That's what makes the most sense. Also, we have autem immediately after it. Autem really should have been my first clue. Sorry, I missed it. That this is a completely new clause after illo, because autem is a post-positive word. It can only appear as the second word in a sentence or in a clause. It can't be the first, can't be the third, or any number after that. Only the second. So hora had to start a new clause. Sorry about that. Nominative singular feminine. Our, however, or but, was quasi. Quasi just means just as. Decima. This comes from decimus, decima, decimum. Nominative, singular, feminine, predicate. 10th. There we go. So the entire context of our verse so far. He says to them, come and see, imperative. They came and they saw where he was staying, and they remained near, I'm going to go with near him on that day. The hour, however, was just as 10th. There we go. Let's take a look at the greater context from verse 35. On another day, meanwhile, John was standing, and two from disciples of him, and looking back at Jesus as he was walking, he says, look, Lamb of God. And they heard him, the two disciples, saying, and they followed Jesus. However, Jesus, having been turned around and seeing them following him, he says to them, what are you seeking? Who said, or have said, to him, Rabbi, which is said, interpreted, Teacher, where are you living? He says to them, come and see. They came and they saw where he was staying, and they remained near him on that day. Hour, however, was just as 10th. That would mean the hour was around the 10th, maybe, rather than just as. Put that in brackets. That's the wrong bracket, sorry. And there we go. That is verse 39. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I hope you continue to stay along with me. Have a good day. Or I should say, wale.